Hi, I'm Sam Winkler, and I'm co-lead writer of Borderlands 3.
My name is Danny Homan. I'm going to hold the mic because I'm my own man. My name is Danny Homan. I am the co-lead writer of Borderlands 3.
Borderlands comes out, you kind of get like a lot of lore established there, but I feel like it wasn't until Borderlands 2 where we really, saw the story beef up. And then since then we've had the prequels, we've had Tales from the Borderlands. So you guys had like a lot of lore going into this already. So I guess what kind of unique challenges do you face, like knowing that you have to pull from all of these different areas and then also trying to deliver something original at the same time?
Yeah, so we went into Borderlands 3 knowing that actually for a lot of people it's going to be their first Borderlands game, but also that there are tons of fans who have played every piece of content, who know every bit of lore, probably better than we do. So our big challenge was saying how do we make it accessible for everyone? And one of the advantages that we had is there's this big time skip, both in reality with the 7-year difference and also in universe. And so when we get back into the Borderlands universe, people have changed and situations have changed. Now there's this enormous cult of the Vault that all the bandits have rallied into. We have Vault Hunters who have left Pandora and taken up private jobs and that sort of thing. So when we're sort of introducing people into the world, both new and returning people are they have to learn. They have to reintroduce themselves to this place.
And part of the fun of Borderlands 3 is that, of course, we don't stay on Pandora. We're going to go to some other planets, and you're going to meet both some beloved old characters and some new characters along the way.
So not everyone has stayed on Pandora. People have gone off and done their own thing.
Stay on Pandora?
Yeah. Given the chance, I would not stay on Pandora, personally.
Given the chance, I would go anywhere but Pandora. Pandora is a wonderful hellscape.
Yeah. That being said, I do want to say, I personally, I'm a huge Borderlands lore nerd. I played every bit of content before I ever stepped foot into Gearbox. So sometimes I would end up in meetings being actually that person's dead or that kind of conversation. So we definitely have an eye towards detail. So for the deep lore enthusiasts, that's there. And we answer a lot of questions about the universe. Not all of them, but some outstanding question marks that have been there since the first game. We definitely touch upon at the very least.
Awesome. So one of the things I'm curious about, we have these 4 new characters that we're going to be playing as. I'm curious, how much of a role do you guys play in establishing who these characters are going to be? Like, do they bring the archetypes to you and then you sort of create the characters based off of what's going to be playable in the game, or do you guys work in tandem, creating every aspect of the character at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty awesome collaboration because the concept artists just have wild ideas of, and they think about player characters in terms of silhouettes. Like Flack is really, really tall, and so they want all the shapes of different characters to be distinguishable, so you can go, oh yeah, I want to play as that character that looks like a beefy, awesome fighter, or that seems like a sleuthy kind of operative, and I want to kind of sneak around and kind of have more tech with my disposal. And in terms of actually putting the characterization behind, we talk to concept artists and designers, and we kind of all meld together and decide on what the characters will be like.
Yeah, you never really know which idea is going to be the one that sticks, and so you kind of want an open playing field for whoever to pitch something. And so, for example, we were playing around with Zane and saying all right, who is this guy? He's seen everything in the world, and he's probably killed a lot of people and seen a lot of darkness. How are we going to find this guy to be happy-go-lucky? And we kind of struck on the idea of the Irish accent, and it became very, very sticky to us. And so we went on this pretty long audition process to find the right voice there. We ended up with a guy named Kian Barry, and once we got him in the studio, after 5 lines, we're like, there he is. He has this joy and wisecracking tone to him, but also you can tell if he told you he killed 5 guys this morning, you'd believe him.
Now you bring up Zane. One of the interesting things about Zane to me is he's related to villains from the previous games, which I think ties into that whole lore thing that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that came up very early in development where we were like, man, we want to get a Flint up into this game. And someone, I think it was Randy, actually said what if that's Zane? What if that's Zane Flynn? And we're like, okay, well, hold on, let's think about it. We kind of perused the lore and figured out a way to make it work. And there's some interesting backstory there, and also some big questions. This guy's a Black Ops hitman. He probably has scrubbed a lot of his history. We have one thing about Borderlands 3 is our player characters are a lot more talkative. They're a lot more engaged in the plot missions that are going on, and they'll react differently, negative or positively. And so we have the benefit of being able to let the players get to know them progressively as they play the game, rather than have to do large info dumps or anything like that.
Like throughout Borderlands 3, if you play as Zane, you're gonna get the impression that he has basically run a job with everyone that he meets. He has like a dark, awesome past with like every NPC, and it's like, oh yeah, we did a gig on this planet. Like he's just like he's been there and he's like kind of seen it all.
But the new character we're finally getting a look at today. We're finally checking out Flak. Now who is Flak?
Flak, they are a emergent AI who has been called to a sort of galactic hunt, sort of never-ending, just traipsing across worlds, killing and collecting a pack of loyal pets. They're a really fun character to us, and we. That was a tough nut to crack. That was another situation where we saw this like incredible concept art for this like bulky murder robot hobo, and said like what does this character sound like? And it definitely wasn't like set in stone that they would end up being obsessed with a personification of death and have this like deep gravelly voice, but it just kind of all came together.
That's a case also in which like the voice actor added a lot to that role. I mean, Flak has this kind of wonderful sense of like primalness and like hunt and survival, and then this like kind of wicked dark sense of humor that's like always bubbling beneath the surface.
Yeah, we got to explore a little bit of that sort of Worf and Data, like I'm observing human society and I don't quite get it, and I'm going to give you my hypothesis. Oh, it's completely wrong? That's fine. Sungwon Cho, Prezi, did an incredible job on that character.
Another thing, so you mentioned like hobo, so is this like kind of robot Rutger Hauer? Is that what we're dealing with?
With the shotgun, yeah. Yeah, exactly. You look at that image. I'm staring at it on the wall right now, and it's like, how many pockets do you have in that coat, and what's in them? Like it is kind of, and you see this loner character who maybe has difficulty interacting with humans, and yet they've got these loyal pets, and you see them interacting with these pets in a way that they never really could with humans. Like there's a lot of love shared between those pets.
Yeah, you can kind of like as Flak, you can pet your pet. You can kind of like send your pet to do stuff to kill people, and there's just kind of like a really wonderful bond that kind of develops.
Yeah. Especially as we're talking about the player character lines and that sort of thing. Like Flak, they speak to their pet, and you see this like two-way love there. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when my pets would go down, you hear the tone of concern in Flak's voice, like they got to go save their little buddy there, which I really appreciate. I'm sure a lot of pet owners are gonna relate to that as well. But one of the other things I find like really intriguing about Borderlands 3 is the villains. You have essentially new media villains, which I think everyone that works like in regular games press can really appreciate, as well as I'm sure some PR folks. Did you come up with the idea to make them sort of like, streamers or YouTubers because that's just kind of the zeitgeist right now, or do you just like kind of revile them as much as like as other people might?
I think that it was a fascination with streamer culture and kind of the unbelievable power that a streamer can have. First of all, like if you're a successful streamer, you have something that people don't have. You have that sense of like what's around the corner, or like there's just like unbelievable like entertaining personality. And so when we were thinking about the Calypso twins, they kind of did something that no one thought was possible in Pandora, right? They took the random bandit clans of Pandora that had been fighting against each other, left by the corporations, and they unified them under like a cult of personality. And to do that, they had to be like really freaking entertaining, and they had to like know what bandits were and like what they wanted, so they could say like, oh, you're killing people and doing terrible things, we love it, just make sure to get a video of it and share it, and then like we'll make sure that you become famous.
Yeah, it's absolutely not a takedown of streamer culture. It's really as you said, it's a fascination that we wanted to take to its like logical, most murderous extreme, and it felt like the logical successor to a character like Handsome Jack, who has this titanic mountain of charisma that like you can hear him insult you all day. You're down for that. But in 2019, you have a very different vibe. This is a crowdsourced, homegrown, grassroots psycho army, and so when they're flippantly insulting you and saying, next person who tries to kill the Vault Hunter gets a free death car, and then screaming hordes of bandits come over the hill, you really feel that. You really feel that power there. I mean, it's funny you say like I think a lot of people in new media and in YouTube and streaming, like the moment they hear it, they're like, yeah, that's about right. Like that, I could see that in the Borderlands universe. It works really well. When we brought in Sungwon Cho and we gave him that one line thing, he's like, yeah, I get it.
That's awesome. The other thing I'm kind of curious about, like the Calypso twins, like what's kind of their backstory? Like where did they come from? Because do they come from like a place of affluence? Because that's kind of the impression that we're given like early on, or is this stuff that you can't really talk about yet?
Well, we don't want to spoil too much about the Calypso twins, but early on in the game, you hear Tyreen mention that she's not a bandit. She didn't come from that bandit lifestyle, so they definitely came from somewhere else, and yet they've studied the bandits, and they seem to know a lot about Pandora and the other planets you'll go to. So they've got knowledge from somewhere. You just don't quite know where they're deriving all of this information, and that's kind of the fun. Is they're one step ahead of you, and they know a little more about what's going on with the vaults than you do.
They've one of the ways that they've whipped the cult into a frenzy is they have sort of claimed the vaults, like those are our birthright, and I think there's something to be said about when you're a streamer or a personality like that, you actually kind of want to hold back on your backstory a little bit. You want to maintain some mystery and like. When you are streaming your entire life, you have very little privacy. So the secrets that you do keep, those matter a lot more.
So you create the Calypsos create character versions of themselves. Tyreen is the spokesperson, she's the entertainer, she's the diva, and Troy Calypso is kind of like operating in the shadows and kind of putting together the machinery of the cult, and like in tandem they kind of each have each other's roles. What's really fun about the Calypsos in Borderlands 3 is that those roles kind of change and morph and adapt as the story goes on.
Yeah, we get to see a lot of the inherent sort of friction and banter and dedication that siblings have, right? My wife is a twin, and so I kind of watched them like bicker with each other and like say things to each other that like close friends would never say to one another, but you can say because, hey, I love you unconditionally, so but I'm still gonna call you out on your shit.